Hello loves, my name is Zamira with Hey You're Psychic. I'm a clairvoyant psychic, intuitive, and welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about the correlation between starseeds and political activism. So I kind of want to start this off with something that I wrote last year called Spiritualism for Justice. I was researching for a mediumship course that I'm actually still taking today. I'm ingesting it very slowly, and within that research, I resonated very greatly with spiritualism. Back in the 1840s, due to a lot of people's families being torn apart and disconnected because of death in the Civil War, Mary Todd Lincoln was a heavy believer in seances, ghosts, and would try to get in contact with Abraham Lincoln's ghost like all the time. There's a lot of controversy around like some ghost photographs she's taken with Abraham Lincoln. I'm pretty sure people thought that these photos were fake though, for sure. But she was this leader and this representation of what the collective was also believing and feeling during that time. People were desperate to get back to their loved ones and figure out what was going on in the afterlife. Quickly though, as people were interested in spirituality around this time though, there were a lot of psychics, a lot of channelers, and a lot of people who were interested in the metaphysical who started popping up in these super urban areas in the north. And then they started channeling information that had everything to do with social justice and improving society as we know it. These messages contained themes around women's suffrage and abolition from slavery. And as a result, there was a lot of conversion away from the church and into spiritualism because people's values aligned more with this. Slowly but surely, spiritualism became a platform for women to be able to have voices and speak up about politics themselves. Spiritualism gave them that platform. And that's where it became clear that spiritualism was not just about mysticism. It was also about the advocacy for human rights. And I kind of get a little teary-eyed talking about this because I really feel like nowadays we've really lost that quality when it comes to modern day New Age spiritualism. Stay with me here because I really want to bring this up. I think this is a really important thing to talk about within the spiritualist community. We have to be paying attention to the earth. We have to be paying attention to what's going on with our fellow humans in different countries who have been exploited constantly. Now, there is this belief within New Age spirituality that kind of rings alarm bells, and there has been some exploration about New Age spirituality being a pipeline basically into alt-right fascism. And we'll go a little eensy-weensy bit into that, but to be fair, I think that's something we can go way deeper. I just want to make a case for how spiritualism and all of this stuff is political, and kind of to bring an alternative view of what it can be seen as, because it doesn't have to be us just reposting everything on Instagram. It can be this intimate relationship with trying to create a better world. There's this New Age spiritual understanding that in order to bring in the new earth, in order to raise up the vibration of the planet, we really have to abandon all types of resistance and embrace harmony. And by doing that, we face away from conflict. We let go of fighting and we live by example, not addressing the needs of people who may not be as privileged as us and people who are living completely different realities. New Age spiritualism has a tendency to be a little narcissistic, where we're focusing on our manifestations, building paradise for ourselves, whereas the rest of the collective is left behind. We try to anchor in these high vibes and reject any notion of despair or distress that may be happening in efforts to bring up the vibe. But what if I told you if that's exactly what brings us closer to separation consciousness and makes us passive in the face of true transformation, healing, and change? I'm not here to be pointing fingers and be like, it's all your fault. I used to be one of those people, especially as I was getting very, very freshly new into my own spirituality. I used to think that by not acknowledging the distress of the world, that somehow I'd be anchoring some high vibes or whatever. But I realized over time that outlook on life really left me feeling more disconnected than ever from humanity. It really made me realize over time that this belief was a fluffy cage and paradise that was a complete distraction from truth. I just want to give like a little reminder of what working with light is. Working with light is truth. It doesn't mean faking anything. It is authentic. It is raw and real. It is fact mixed in with hope. My inaction and passivity made me feel very, very disconnected from humanity, and I used to observe other people with judgment, assuming that they were addicted to chaos, that we were all wanting some lapping up with the drama, and I really took on this phrase, you can't fight fire with fire. And whenever I once have thought this phrase to be true, I once stood very firmly into this phrase, but now the phrase annoys the shit out of me. It actually helped me feel okay with my passivity and my avoidance that I had for all of the change that needed to be happening on the planet in general. And I want to just mention, whenever it came to my own personal spirituality, this passivity was not just reflected into the way that I looked at the world, it also reflected in the way that I was dealing with my own personal healing journey. Instead of facing my shadows, instead of feeling my emotions, my distress, instead of looking at the truth of how I would react to different situations in my life, I would immediately try to shift and go into this alternate route of being on a higher timeline by bypassing everything before that shift. And of course, that reflected in how I handled social justice, despite having a literal Bachelor of Science in sociology. I have noticed that a lot of us are starting to awaken as well. There's a huge spirituality is super trendy right now, and I do notice this sort of trajectory happening within the collective as well. And I kind of wanted to give some cases against it, but also kind of integrate both polarities of resisting, fighting, in just really making chaos until leaders listen versus passivity and doing what you can to leave this situation alone and leading by example in different ways. How can we integrate both passivity and resistance, hardcore resistance, into creating a new blend of resistance that can help? So I just want to talk about looking at the saying, you can't fight fire with fire. I actually saw a reel recently with this older lady talking about how her followers have been asking her to address several issues, political, social issues that are happening. And she practically said, what's the point? I just want to be a page of good vibes so that way I can set an example of how I want to live life. You can't fight fire with fire. And it honestly made me feel really disappointed, because how does change come about? Change happens when we're able to really fully see a situation, when we're able to look at pain and be able to transmute it. The message that she put out just felt a little bypassy for me, and I noticed that there was a lot of mixed emotions in the comments on people on being both sides. But what if both sides are true? What if there is a part of us that needs to be passive, but then there's also a part of us that needs to be on top of our game and make sure we're making a plan to resist? Every fire is situationally different. Some fires need to be stifled and can be stifled. Some you need to ride out and wait until it burns itself out because there's nothing you can do. And others need to be contained. With each fire, there's something different that needs to happen in order for us to be able to move past it. Maybe we don't fight fire with fire. Maybe instead of passivity, we can utilize water. We can utilize earth. We can utilize some other mean to calm it down, or better yet, remove it completely. Yes, fighting fire with fire doesn't work, right? Especially if we use domination tactics, we'll always lose. We'll always lose because we don't have the resources to do that. And we see this time and time again in other countries where they started to resist with domination tactics and how that does not work. So yeah, I hate this phrase whenever it's used in the context of social justice or political advocacy, because it implies that passivity will always be better than taking action. Even though it doesn't outright say that, I feel like people kind of use it to say that. And passivity, whenever we are passive, we really let political leaders and oligarchs run the show, and that's obviously not working either. Let's get into the starseed part. You're like, what the fuck? How is that related at all? Okay, and I'm just gonna say it started with this book. Okay, this book. I read this book. It's called The Prism of Lyra, An Exploration of Human Galactic Heritage by Lissa Royal Holt. Basically, she's a channel, and she channeled aliens, basically. I know, sounds batshit crazy and insane. I want to just preface this by saying, if it wasn't for me going deeper into my research of starseeds and galactic history, I probably wouldn't be making this video right now. There are a lot of theories around starseed people, or people who are into this, being part of alt-right fascist ideology, and I can see this. I see those avenues. I see why people would be able to see this, and I think it's important to acknowledge that. However, I don't see it as the full truth. I do see it sort of helping me, honestly, on my own social advocacy era. So I would like to make the case that that's not exactly true. However, that does exist. Okay, so I'm not saying it's not true. Why do I believe starseed shit is real, honestly? And the reason for this is because of psychic surgery. Psychic surgery is an energy healing modality where you are removing dark and inorganic, dense energies from your energy body, from your fields, in order to feel lighter, happier, remove blockages, obstacles, remove black magic, hexes, all this stuff, so that way you can kind of be more grounded on your own healing path. And I have been trained in psychic surgery by a mentor, and it's been a year since I've learned about it completely, and this year has been insane. So psychic surgery is basically the big guns you use to extract attachments, entities, or even black magic done on you. It's similar to doing cleansing and banishing rituals, but it's the big guns for it. And as I've been on my psychic surgery journey, as this past year I've only been practicing on a few people and myself, I've noticed that there's a lot of negative alien interference, which makes me sound batshit insane, I realize, but it is just my truth and I have to own it. So that's why I decided I have to read this book, because I have to understand what the hell I'm dealing with, because I'm seeing these energies. And look, guys, you want to call bullshit on like starseed shit? First things first, if I can read other people's energy to a T, see what crazy shit is happening in their life without knowing these people at all, and doing accurate readings, reviews on my website, why wouldn't I be able to read the energy of like negative alien influences and stuff? I'm just saying, make it make sense. Also, other convincing things, whenever I would have psychic surgeries with my mentor, more often than not, our visions would overlap without us even mentioning it, talking about it to each other, or whatever. The cross-checking is insane, which also leads me to believe, oh my god, this is like kind of real on some level. So before you say I'm just like a crazy bitch who like talks about aliens on the internet, my experience as a psychic, I have a lot of at least anecdotal evidence that this stuff is very real for me. And I think it's important that we talk about it, because there is still this discourse on like, this is bullshit versus not bullshit. It got me curious about starseeds because I've noticed how negative alien influences, first off, affect our mental and emotional health. And again, you want to call me crazy there, but this is all a shamanistic perspective. This is a perspective that has been anchored in ancient wisdom for a long time. Shamanism is very, very real. And that is my perspective. And I resonate with that wholly and completely. Now, is it everything? Is it like, you know, should we only be relying on shamanistic perspectives in order to heal our mind? No, therapy is great. Counseling is great. I urge you to do that as well. All of these things are very real on the physical plane as well. But I'm just saying, a shamanistic perspective never hurts. So yeah, I read the Prism of Lyra. It's basically a rundown and the channeled history of the galactic perspective of how the human race came to be, our birth, essentially. And so it goes through a bunch of different galactic races and how they were created. Basically, we were all one source, and source said, what if I didn't know myself? And it branched out into a bunch of little fragments, not at all at once, kind of all at once, actually. And then from there, it just further separated into different paradigms, different ideologies, different races. The whole race thing, that's where it gets a little weird, and how I can see the alt-right fascism issue thing going on, but maybe I'll save that for a different video, because honestly I would like to do more research over that. But in this book, moving forward, media we consume about literal galactic and space wars, like literally Dune and Star Wars and Star Treks, are actually pieces of our galactic memory. And this was something that I resonated with before even reading this book. This was something I thought about and really channeled on my own without anybody saying that for me. So whenever I saw that in this book, I was like, oh, okay, good to know that there's some resonance there. Anyway, these civilizations who were involved in these galactic wars or whatever tried to heal and integrate themselves to go back to the source. That was basically the goal of everyone. These races, these galactic races, took things very differently. Some of them decided to pray the evil away, and other ones decided to conquer the universe in efforts to reintegrate back into the source, so force people into homogeny and such. Sound familiar? And here's the thing, both of these groups, the ones that conquered and like enslaved people and controlled populations versus the ones that like prayed everything away and got really good at healing, both of them were not able to fully integrate into the source, despite one of them being characterized as negative versus positive. And so that brings us to Earth. Earth is this melting pot of galactic races and is a way to clear the karma of the galactic races that have not been able to learn their lesson and integrate back into the source. So Earth is seen as this second chance, this actually nth chance of being able to reintegrate back into the source. So we're completing their quest lines, but we're doing it differently than they have. This book made it very real that the same issues we're going through here on Earth. For instance, people having different religions, people who have land concerns, people who judge each other based off of skin color, eye color, where they were born, culture, racism. All of these themes were the themes that even fucking aliens were dealing with. And for some reason I got just a little bit of an existential crisis, because for some reason it really broke my passivity a little bit, because for the longest time I was like, oh, the aliens are here, or higher dimensional beings are there to help us and teach us how to do all these things. They've already gone through their issues and they're done, blah, blah, blah. Nope. They never fixed their fucking issues. That's why we're here. So just feeling this almost pressure, this galactic-sized pressure of being a better citizen, just sort of weighed on my shoulders a little bit. And it was really, really difficult to shake off because of what we're seeing today, nowadays, how everything is being handled, how much exploitation there is on Earth, racism, all of these awful things. And the US being at the center of a lot of it, I would just like to add, it really made me feel sad. And look, I would say most of the time, drugs are not the answer. And they're not. But I did decide to do a little self-mushroom exploration to help assist me get out of this funk, because I was in it for a couple of days and my heart was very, very heavy, feeling all of the grief of oh, we've tried this many lifetimes before and really did real shit at it. I don't know what to do. How the fuck am I supposed to figure all of this out? You know what I mean? So I decided to have a mushroom trip to kind of help. And from there, I felt like the little mushrooms were there to help me figure out how the hell to get through this. And through that, I've created this little system called the tactics of water, being able to stifle fire with water tactics instead of fighting fire with fire, because most of the times the citizens lack resources anyway. How can we utilize a roundabout way that addresses concerns, sees the truth, but responds to them adequately? So take this as my little social theory and playground. And I'm not actually the one to create systems like this. I'm sure there are many people out there who have already thought about these different ways to resist, to disrupt, and also to help. But this is what I was able to channel, which was very helpful. So first off, the mushrooms told me your intuitive development is everything. It is so important. And the reason for this is because it looks like it is only dark out there. It looks like there is all this darkness that is happening, but just as strong as the darkness is, the light is stronger. Even though it is not highlighted as much, you have to trust that it's there. What they were showing me was that there was already this interconnective network of light workers who are working together, who are helping to raise the vibration of the planet, not by passivity, but by each taking individual roles, different roles even, to help create this network of community that all of us have to fall back on just in case the system fails. So it's interesting how it got a little apocalyptic immediately, right? Because matrixy systems and just darkness in general wants to make you feel alone and isolated and as if you are completely individualized to not being able to fend for yourself. They want you to depend on the systems in order to take care of you, even though they're doing a really shit job at it. So what they were saying was that your intuitive development is everything, because that's how you know what your mission is, and that your mission fluctuates. It's not this I'm a light worker, I'm here to be happy. That's not the mission. Sometimes the mission is okay, you need to be speaking up about this stuff. Sometimes the mission is like, okay, bitch, go out on the street and wave some flags around and get mad about the situation. Sometimes the mission is, hey, we need you to go more into nonprofit work. Sometimes it's, we need you to write something down. We need you to raise awareness to the situation. Our purpose fluctuates all the time. And some of us, it's also, hey, we need you to do energy work so that way you can help, because vibes lead to actions and actions lead to results, right? Intuitive development is key because then you understand more what your purpose and mission is, the fluctuating nature of it and what you're supposed to be doing in that moment. You also are able to suss out the right people around you and understand like who is here to fight, but it's to find also the right resources, the right people who can help you in these crazy ass situations that might be happening sometimes. They also told me the next one is personal development and healing. Doing your own personal healing is going to help so much with being able to align more to those light vibes by integrating your darkness and light selves together. This is going to be helping, right? It's integration. It's not just going dark. It's not just going light. It's them working together, because without either side, we have nothing. We have no advancement. Advancement, evolution comes from conflict. Conflict is a chance to learn. And it doesn't mean conflict has to end up in this like mushroom cloud. Conflict doesn't mean, oh, you literally have to like cut a bitch. It means you feel like you want to cut a bitch and you have to understand why, right? It's this integration that's going to help the most, because then we're able to see our dualistic nature. Humans are neither good nor bad. They're neither light or dark. They're both. We're both. Both helps us move forward. So those are two important ones. I feel like it's almost like these are at the bottom of the pyramid. Maybe intuitive development doesn't have to be at the very bottom, but at the very least, personal development and healing absolutely is. It's looking at your dark sides. For instance, maybe there's parts of us that are still prejudiced, like making sure we're watching ourselves and making sure that we are making choices in ways that help heal each other instead of hurt each other. The other thing is education and political savviness, but not in the way that you think. First off, national vote feels like it's American Idol. Y'all are gonna get mad at me. I really do feel like no matter who we fucking vote for, they're all gonna suck and they all do shitty shit behind the scenes. Yes, some more than others. Like, for instance, the Cheeto is definitely doing a lot worse than we've seen before, but that's not necessarily completely true. Everybody else has done some creepy ass shit as well. But here's the thing. When I say political savviness, it's not necessarily just for the national vote, because I feel like that's the one that least matters and they make the biggest deal out of, so you feel like you're doing something, but you're not actually. But instead, it's local votes. They need our attention more than ever, and I feel like that is where we can have the most influence. This is where the random laws get passed. This is where we have the most influence. And I would just like to put in perspective that I don't practice what I preach. This very piece is where I fall short completely. I have always been taught when it comes to US government in class and everything, how important the national vote was, or actually how non-important it can be. But that was pretty much the only one I was made aware of. And when it came to local and state governments and how I could get personally involved, that was rarely mentioned. Like, we would just go into the actual structure rather than how you can get involved and how you can stay informed and all of that. So I fall short of this one, and I acknowledge that, and I'm going to get better at it. Another thing with the category education and political savviness is a real understanding and comprehension of the history of foreign conflicts and the US's involvement in imperialism and exploitation of nearly everyone. Anybody who does not think that the US is the villain has some self-reflecting to do. I'm just gonna say it. Anybody who thinks that. Ever since I was little, I always thought US was the bad guy. Maybe it's because I grew up brown. that could be a big reason. Like, I had immigrant parents, kinda weird familial situations, but with an immigrant parent and being born from two immigrants, I always felt like the world was against us in Louisiana. Okay, if you think that the US is doing something right, girl, you're in danger. You're in danger. Okay, so rethink that one a little bit. Maybe do some more reading when it came to the exploitation of, like, the US exploiting everyone. My mother being an immigrant definitely had a lot to do with my knowledge around that, because I understood more how imperialism happened in her home country of Nicaragua. I was also a little conspiracy theorist whenever I was little too, of just like looking at different presidents and what they've been doing. Like, for instance, Barack Obama starting ICE and Bush doing 9/11. Like, I so freaking think he did it. Just being so fucking real. And then Trump just starting fascism, basically. Actually, fascism's been around, but he's like really all the way. My point is that the US has really been targeting the Middle East, especially the Middle East, to the South Central Americas. They've always been getting in the way of any sort of political unification of those places, always, and exploit them. Even Africa. Africa, I don't know if they've had like political unification. I mean, the Middle East is kind of there as well, but they've definitely been exploiting them, that's for damn sure. So yeah, acknowledging that is very important. Just comprehending those conflicts, I think, is important, because you're just more informed. So then on to the next categorization is participation, with charity and volunteering, peaceful resistance, and spreading knowledge. So spreading knowledge, talking about the issue, maybe not in ways that dysregulate everybody's nervous systems, but at least being like, hey, this is happening and we need to do something about it. Peaceful resistance, I think, is also helpful, and just helping your community in general will always be helpful. And will always help you have better connections with people who are different than you, and when I say having better connections, I mean like raising self-awareness and empathy, having more sympathy from people who are in different situations than you. So volunteering and charity work is always going to help too. And of course, we also have like social media in lots of ways to be helping people who are going through adverse situations, like people in Gaza, being able to like just even interact with their content, donate if you feel like it's right for you, or if you do have the ability to be able to, that also helps. It does help. I know it can get a little overwhelming about engaging with those accounts also, because it's like then it becomes your whole timeline, but it's like, it's the least we can do. It's absolutely the least we can do. And now just getting back into this like more spiritual understanding of all this, like all of this put together with this intuitive side helps a lot. Like meditation decreases crime rates. There was this study done called Preventing Crime Through the Maharishi Effect that shows that crime reduces when we practice transcendental meditation together in one place. I have this little excerpt. This study examined all 24 cities in the US with populations over 10,000 in which 1% or more of their populations were practicing transcendental meditation. These experimental cities were compared to 24 control cities selected by an independent investigator prior to collection of the last several years of data. In 1973, there was a significant 24% decrease in crime rate in 1% cities relative to the control cities. That's kind of crazy. 24% is crazy when it comes to science. That's a huge decrease. So our collective efforts do not go unnoticed. I just want to bring into perspective that your own personal spiritual practice matters, and it helps the regulation of your body and your nervous system, but also looking at truth matters. We can't just say, oh, you can't fight fire with fire, and then do literally the least possible. We have to resist, but in smart ways that we can. Yeah, I just needed to get this like little opinion out there, and I really hope that this video helps you kind of see some sort of light in all of the craziness that's happening right now. I'd love to know your thoughts about the Starseed situation and what's going on with that. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, the Starseed stuff I'm relatively new to as well. I'll talk more about it later. But yeah, let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if you also have beautiful ways that you help the collective and how we can get on board with it as well. That helps a lot. Maybe you can connect us with more resources. And yeah, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll get back to other videos soon. I'm excited. I have a little queue up. But thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe and stick with me on this journey if you're interested in more topics like this. So I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.